Well, as Christians around the world observe Good Friday today, it's a time of deep reflection, reverence and remembrance of the crucifixion of Jesus Christ, marking one of the most solemn days in the Christian calendar. But beyond the spiritual significance, the Easter weekend also brings rich traditions to the table. Food plays a special role too in how families and communities come together during this sacred time, while helping us to take a closer look at the meaning behind Good Friday and what's cooking this Easter is religious expert Professor Musa Xulu. Prof, a very good afternoon to you and thank you so much for your time. So as we've been saying, Christians around the world are marking Good Friday, as a solemn day, but also just remembering and, commemorating the Christ's crucifixion. But also, as we've been saying in the introduction, it does mark a very religious and deeper meaning for most Christians. Just take us through the deeper spiritual meaning of the significance of Easter, particularly during the Holy Week.
Well, the Holy Week is preceded by 40 days which are known as Lent. And those days symbolize the many types of 40 days when Christ himself was either tested by the devil or was, especially before he took onto his ministry. He had to go in isolation, and for 40 days he was in the desert, and he was tempted by the devil many times, but was able to triumph there. So that becomes Lent. And immediately on the Sunday before the crucifixion, that is known as Palm Sunday. That marks the day when Christ entered Jerusalem on a donkey, and the people were celebrating him as a savior on that Sunday. And then, of course, we all know that the following Friday, they were shouting that he must be crucified. But there's a lot of symbolism in the observation of this period. Because from Thursday, then it's called Maundy Thursday, which marks the evening when Christ instituted the Holy Communion. And then, of course, after that, he was arrested, and then he was tried in 3 trials in one night. And eventually, even though Pilate said he's not finding anything wrong with him, they threatened him, saying that they will go and tell Caesar that he's agreeing that this Jesus Christ is king. And eventually he gave in, and then Christ was had to carry the cross, and then eventually crucified and died in that afternoon.
And of course, Sunday.
On a Friday.
Yeah, absolutely. Sunday also playing a very important role. We know, of course, that on Saturday evening, Archbishop Thabo Makgoba will be delivering his traditional Easter sermon, where many Christians will be tuning in to listen to that. What message do you think will his address present now, during this time, just given the challenges that many Christians face and those that have just lost sense of, what this particular tradition means for them? How should he then start to reconcile what we are seeing also from a geopolitical standpoint in the world? We've been hearing also from, various priests about how it is important for churches to start uniting people. How do Christians start beginning to reconcile, especially those that are disillusioned, and something that the Archbishop Makgoba should really capture during that address?
Well, the Archbishop, I think, will talk about poverty and inequality in South Africa. But also, he may talk about the issues of VAT hike, because that's a real issue of the day,
Yeah.
and its implications, especially for the poor. And then he's likely to also touch on the issue with Donald Trump and all the tariffs that is doing around the country, around the world. Because I think for South Africa, the tariffs are going to hit very hard in an economy that is not growing in any way. So, in the manner of Christ, bishops and archbishops and other church leaders, including ourselves, have to show compassion
Yeah.
for the suffering, for the widows, for the poor, for the children. And the Archbishop will reflect in that way, I think, to say that we are facing all these problems. Yes, and the Deputy President was saying something about the need for church and government to work together. And of course, that's a very bold move, because the CRL Commission, for example, has appointed us also to look into the issues of how government can participate in ensuring that the human rights and dignity
Yeah.
of the believers are also protected while we promote the freedom of religion in the country.
Yeah.
So it comes together so well.
And of course, Prof, you are the chairperson of that Section 22 committee under the CRL Rights Commission. So we'll be watching that also, that space very closely. But Prof, as we wrap our conversation, and of course on a lighter note, I want us to now talk about other traditions that are aligned to this Holy Week, particularly as we delve into food. I mean, when you look at the younger generation, especially, they don't necessarily, gravitate with some of the hype around, for instance, things like pickled fish, or other, food types that are being eaten and enjoyed during this particular time. But perhaps just give us then a picture in terms of why, these traditions need to be upheld and what they mean in today's society, and notwithstanding, of course, just some of the challenges that you've just mentioned.
Well, they are historical in the church.
Yeah.
Let me start with the issue, for example, of Easter egg. Easter eggs, when Professor Martin Luther started with the Reformation, they brought in something that maybe in the nature of things during the period of Lent, which I spoke about, congregants should not eat eggs. And so before Lent, the children in England and many parts of Europe would go around collecting eggs, and those eggs become eaten on Easter Sunday going forward. So it's a type of ensuring that you abstain from certain types of food during the time of mourning. And then, of course, we also have the fish came from the same stuff of abstinence, that during this time of Lent and this Holy Week, maybe Christians should abstain from eating meat. And then, especially on this Good Friday, on the Friday itself, when Christ is believed to be down there, maybe as part of abstinence, then we should be eating fish. And that became a tradition that I think has got something like 300-400 years in Europe, but it has spread all over the world. And then the buns, of course, are also some of the symbols that are used, where you decorate the buns in such a way that in the decoration it resembles the cross.
Absolutely.
And so you must also remember, my sister, that Christianity, like most religion, consists of a lot of symbolism, things that stand for other things, but have meaning in the context of the Bible and in the context of the traditions of the church. And especially after Martin Luther with the Reformation in 1517, there was a lot of creativity around how we should remember Christ and how we should embrace Christianity, which was not there before 1517.
Prof, thank you so much. Again, an enlightening conversation. Thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate it. Religious and cultural expert, Professor Musa Xulu, there for us, of course, explaining the symbolism of not only Good Friday, but also the Holy Week.